الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. My name is Madinah Javed. I'm a Quran teacher and reciter. I have recited at the British Museum. I have recited in St Mary's Cathedral, which became quite a controversial event, but it had such positive response within the local community. I often encourage more women and try to inspire women to recite, because I think the female voice is important and powerful and it must be heard. I really love the Quran, and I want to share that connection that I feel in my heart with the Quran with other people, so they can feel that too. When you share a recitation, it's like an act of charity. Even when I was reciting in the cathedral for the first time, I didn't know how people would react to this, because if they're used to hymns, but maybe Quran recitation isn't something they're familiar with. I was so surprised and so touched when people in the cathedral came up to me and actually shook my hand and thanked me for sharing that with them, and to see how touched that people were crying. They were so moved. It was really overwhelming to realize how powerful the Quran is and how it can really reach people's hearts. And that's like the message that I really love. There's a quote, like, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. You know, I don't actually have like a particular favourite. I think there's so much beauty and meaning in different parts of it, and I think depending on which stage you are in your life or something that you're going through, different parts and different verses can touch you in different ways. Someone inspiring in my life, Leslie, who's no longer with us, she always told me, like, always remember that Allah is closer to you than your own jugular vein. And I think that was just so beautiful, because no matter what you're going through, or whether it's good or bad times, you know that Allah is with you and is so close to you. So I found that a really touching verse. I recited Quran in the cathedral. There was an outcry from groups in America that were stirring up hatred about what had taken place, people that were not even there. So there was a lot of hatred and offensive messages, even death threats sent towards the cathedral. Their arguments were just illogical and they didn't make sense. So it was more important for me to focus on the good, positive things I experienced within the cathedral, people who were actually there and people who were actually actually knew accurately what had happened, rather than people outside. Even though the people outside were getting more attention in the media, later on you just laugh at it. I just laugh at it with my friends now, because what they're saying is quite ridiculous. When people want to silence you and don't want to hear you, that just makes you want to be even louder and stronger, I guess. And when I recite, I think, because I recite quite powerfully as well, and maybe that can be quite intimidating for people sometimes, to hear a woman reciting quite strongly. Faith to me is, I guess it can be a very personal thing, but also a public thing because of the way you look. And you know, I'm overtly a Muslim because of my scarf. To me, it's about my relationship with God, and I really feel that through the Quran and through reciting the Quran, that's really strengthened my connection with God. And that's why I think it's important to have a connection with the Quran. And in my life, like through teaching it and learning it and studying the Quran, that really strengthened my relationship with God and gave me like a lot of faith. To be sincere, but also to be reflective, and always to be like reassessing yourself. So maybe at one point you can have good intentions, but they could change. So you have to continually like be critical and think about what you're doing and keep yourself in check, I guess. So that's something faith, I guess, teaches us. Faith is also a fun thing as well. So I love making people laugh and having fun. So it's not just about the serious things. I think it's good to enjoy yourself and be happy in life. I am the first person where I live in Scotland to be doing this. It's never been done before in my community. But I look to countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, where it's something so common. There's women reciting like all the time. So It's something that is not new. It's been done around the world in many places. I think that could be due to a lot of cultural barriers, and it is definitely important for women's voices to be heard, because as one of my friends told me, female Quran recitation, it tells a different story. And even when I found recitations of, for example, Sakina Hassan from 1933, found the most beautiful recording of her, it was so touching, and it really was very, very special to listen to, and it really connects you to the Quran in a way that I'd never experienced before. To see, to feel the purity and sincerity of her recitation. And she doesn't use microphones or sound effects, you can just hear the purity of her voice, which was so special. And I think definitely we need to be hearing more women reciting, especially in this country, and it's so important because even when non-Muslims talk to me and they hear women recite, it really deepens their respect for Muslim women too, because they can see the power and the beauty of it, and they can see how much love that you have for it, and then they wonder what is this passion and this love, where is it coming from? And they're really curious, and in a really nice way. I can't name any other female reciters in this country, and that is a problem, because everybody recites the Quran. Everyone has to recite it for their prayers, and so we all recite, but we just don't, I guess it doesn't happen in public spaces, mainly just female only gatherings. Whenever a male recites, everyone has something positive to say, but whenever a woman or a female recites, there's silence, or there's just silly comments online like take off your shoes. Although that's something that you can laugh at, because it's really funny, why would you want someone to take off their shoes? So that's got nothing to do with the recitation. You really just wonder about the spiritual lobotomy that's taken place in the last centuries. What sort of distortion are we consuming? There were women in the time of the Prophet, like Waraqah, who was known for her loud and frequent recitations at the time of the Prophet. So it really makes you think we need to be a lot more critical, and we need to be actively doing things. So the Quran, when it's recited, it's always flowing and it's moving, it's not still. So in our lives we need to be active and always moving and doing things and being dynamic and making change. So not just talking about things, but actually getting on and doing things. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم. When Allah gives you a gift or a skill, you have a responsibility to use that, and it's your purpose. You have to share your passion. It's your responsibility to serve others and to make this world a better place.